to hop up on here to make sure everybody is aware of what is going on right now. I am seized, obviously, by the Charlie Kirk assassination trial, and I want to make sure I'm breaking down to the public what is happening, because there is a hearing live right now, the defense versus the prosecution. Prosecution is representing Erika Kirk because she is the victim on this case, and you might recall that Erika did this news hit a while ago. It was kind of weird, where she just asserted, and then they passed around, that she really wanted to make sure that her right to a speedy trial was observed, okay?
Candace Owens went live, and right in the middle of breaking down the trial, she dropped a point that flipped the whole situation on its head. Suddenly, the focus wasn't just on Tyler Robinson anymore. It shifted toward why Erika Kirk seems to be pushing a version of events that no one is being allowed to fully examine. Candace didn't take her time easing into it either. She jumped straight in while the hearing was still unfolding, reacting in real time as both sides argued over something that should be basic: access to evidence. And that's exactly where things started to feel off. According to the defense, they still haven't received the full files from the FBI or the ATF. Not the raw data, not the complete reports, just summaries. And somehow, despite that, the prosecution is still pushing forward with a televised probable cause hearing. That detail kept coming up again and again because it raises a serious question.
And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, but why? Well, it turns out that now we are understanding that this is going to be the prosecution's strategy. And I will be very clear here. I do not believe Tyler Robinson assassinated Charlie Kirk, and I believe that Turning Point USA is implicated in this moment in a cover-up of sorts, okay? What various roles were played, but to me, looking at the evidence, which I have done more than anybody else, there is a cover-up taking place, and this hearing proves it.
If the case against Tyler Robinson is really as strong as it's being presented, then why isn't the full evidence being opened up for proper review before moving ahead? That's when the attention began to shift. Not completely away from Tyler, but toward Erika Kirk and the urgency coming from her side. The push for a fast-tracked hearing didn't just appear out of nowhere. Publicly, it's being framed as someone seeking justice and wanting the process to move forward quickly. But when you line up the timeline, it starts to feel like something else entirely, like pressure building behind the scenes. Pressure to lock in a narrative before it can be fully questioned or challenged. Candace highlighted something simple but hard to ignore. The defense isn't asking for anything extreme. They want to review how the fingerprints were analyzed, check the chain of custody, and confirm the timeline that places Tyler at the scene. And yet they're being blocked from doing that. They're handed a summary and expected to just accept it without question. And that's where things stop feeling like a normal legal process and start looking controlled. A probable cause hearing isn't supposed to feel like a performance, but in this situation, it's being described as something that could even be televised, built around claims that can't be properly challenged in real time because the full data hasn't been shared. That raises a bigger issue. Why push something into the spotlight before the foundation is even fully visible? And this is where older stories begin to connect.
Okay, so they were supposed to have a probable cause hearing in May. It is slated on the calendar. When they agreed to do this in May, the defense, Tyler Robinson's defense, was like, well, we shouldn't set a date until we all get our discovery requests. And they were like, we're just going to put it on the calendar. Don't worry. We're just going to throw it on the calendar. And then, of course, if you guys don't have what you need, the case will not go forward. Lo and behold, Erika goes on Fox News and says, I want to make sure it's a speedy trial on the victim, whatever. And
not as proof on their own, but as pieces that start lining up in a way people can't ignore. One example that kept coming up was the casting tape Candace brought back into focus. It showed a very different version of Erika, more energetic, more playful, clearly comfortable chasing attention in a reality TV-style audition setting. That version doesn't fully match the calm, controlled image she presents today. Now, on its own, that's not unusual. People grow, they shift, they evolve over time. But the conversation didn't stay focused on change. It moved toward how that earlier version seemed to be kept out of sight. Publicly, Erika had described her past as structured and low-key.
So now we're hearing that directly from the defense, and the prosecution is not disputing this, they both agree, that the ATF and the FBI will not hand over their data files that they have had in their possession since September, despite multiple requests from the defense. They're like, we literally cannot have this hearing because we have not been given any data files. What am I talking about? This is crucial.
With minimal distractions and no chaotic environments, that tone feels very different from what those older clips and photos appear to show. Once that contrast became visible, it sparked a new wave of questions. People started asking why that earlier chapter of her story seemed to be smoothed out so carefully and presented in such a controlled way. Then the timeline started getting attention, and that's where things became even more layered. Before stepping into political spaces, Erika had already been moving through circles tied to visibility and influence, pageants, fashion opportunities, and networking environments that often overlap more than people expect. At one point, she was positioned within high fashion circles, connected to major spaces known for quietly intersecting with powerful social networks. On its own,
Erika's team is arguing, we want the hearing to go through anyways, it's just a probable cause hearing. Okay, but they are basing this probable cause hearing, they want this to be televised, and they're gonna say, what evidence do you have that Tyler Robinson did this? And the prosecution is going to say, well, we have his fingerprints that are on the gun. Well, what they're not telling you is that they're saying they have his fingerprints on the gun. That's just a summary report that the FBI gave to the defense. The defense is saying, okay, now can we see the digitized files? Can we see the fingerprints? Can we see your process and how you got this? No. You just get the summary. The summary report is all you need. No, actually, we need to make sure that what you're saying you saw and what you have is real.
none of that proves anything. But when everything is placed side by side, it starts to feel less like random moments and more like a pattern people want to understand. Then comes Romania, the nonprofit project. Romanian Angels was presented publicly as humanitarian work. But when people looked closer, they noticed gaps. It wasn't licensed for adoption, and it seemed to function more as outreach rather than formal. Placement. Over time, parts of its digital footprint also became harder to trace. That detail alone might not mean much, but when earlier mentions linked the project to controversial figures operating in the same region, it caught attention again. And this is exactly where Candace keeps bringing the focus back. If this case were only about Tyler Robinson, none of that background would carry this much weight. But the way this hearing is unfolding makes it feel like something bigger could be at play. The speed, the resistance to full transparency.
I never dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it was. Somehow getting drinks was the replacement of having coffee and breakfast. I personally would rather have coffee or brunch with someone than go. I don't drink. I find it unproductive, not because I'm holier than whatever. I just don't operate that way. But I always thought it was very strange how she would go to drinks with one guy and then go to dinner with another. So it goes twofold here. So if you're expecting to marry someone that I was blessed with, like a Charlie, you have to be the type of woman that will attract a Charlie. Are you going to church? Are you going to Bible study?
And the push to move forward without giving the defense complete access. It all creates the sense that the outcome is being prioritized over the process. That's where the idea of pressure starts to build, the kind where every move feels carefully planned, but also rushed at the same time. You can see it in the timing after Charlie Kirk's passing, a rapid transition into leadership, immediate involvement in key decisions, and reports of internal changes happening behind the scenes. You can see it in the audio Candace referenced, where conversations about merchandise tied to Charlie's name were happening almost immediately after everything unfolded. You can see it in public appearances too, the effort to stay in control of the narrative, to shape how the story is told before anyone else can step in. And now, that same energy is showing up inside the courtroom. And that's where everything starts to tighten up even more. Because once that same energy moves into a courtroom setting, it hits differently. This isn't social media anymore, and it's not just public opinion being shaped in real time. This is supposed to be a structured process built on clarity, access, and fairness. But what's being described doesn't fully match that expectation. And that's why people are paying closer attention now than ever before.
I think I always had that girly girl hidden within me. After being such a tomboy and experiencing that my whole life, it was like, oh, I can curl my hair, I can put on the mascara. I come from a great family that has very amazing genetics, so thanks, Mom and Dad.
What stands out the most is the pace. Everything feels like it's moving fast, almost too fast for a situation this serious. Normally, cases like this take time to build properly, especially when multiple agencies are involved. There are procedures, reviews, and layers of verification that are supposed to happen before anything is pushed into a public hearing. But here, the speed itself has become part of the conversation, and speed alone wouldn't raise eyebrows if everything else was clear. But when you combine that pace with limited access to full evidence, it starts to feel unbalanced. The defense is still asking basic questions: how the evidence was collected, how it was handled, how timelines were confirmed. And instead of getting full transparency, they're working with partial information. That gap creates tension, and it's exactly what's driving so many discussions right now. Then there's the courtroom atmosphere itself. When a hearing becomes highly visible, possibly even broadcast, it changes how everything is perceived. It introduces a level of pressure that isn't always present in quieter proceedings. Every statement, every argument, every reaction, it all becomes part of a wider narrative playing out beyond the legal setting. And when that happens, the line between process and presentation can start to blur. That's where people begin asking tougher questions. Is the focus fully on building a solid case?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
No, and I know you're going to keep saying that in your defense. Like, I know that.
No, I know.
And I know there's probably no magic string of words that I could piece together to procure some type of answer. But
Yeah.
I think on a surface level, like, I'm not going to walk out of here until I say my piece. Like, I mean, y'all know this. I just worked a series of 80, 90-hour weeks plus for AmFest.
Yeah, I think
I've
it's-
had no direction or explanation since we've come back. Our CEO has been assassinated. I've done nothing but backwards for this organization, and the point where I'm wondering if this is a prank.
It's not a prank. I would never do that.
So I'm just trying to understand. And
No, I understand. It's time to.
so do I get to have a conversation with Dylan? Do I get to have a conversation with Justin or anybody? Or
Nope.
no? And there's no explanation as to why I'm gonna let go.
Right now, we'll leave it all.
You know, and you're gonna keep saying a different direction, but I'm trying to understand how I've met multiple times with my.
Well, you're going a different direction with the team, and I have to ask you to leave now.
You have to ask me to leave property?
Yes.
Due to what, Frank?
Or is there also a push to shape how the situation is seen from the outside? Because when attention is this high, perception can move just as fast as facts. And once a certain version of events takes hold publicly, it can be difficult to shift, even if new information comes forward later. Another layer that keeps coming up is timing. Not just the speed of the hearing, but everything surrounding it. The sequence of events, the transitions in leadership, the way decisions were made quickly after major changes, it all forms a timeline that people are now looking at more closely. And when multiple shifts happen in a short window, it naturally leads to more questions about how everything connects. At the same time, it's important to keep perspective. None of these points on their own confirm anything. But when they stack together, the pace, the limited access, the visibility, the timing, they create a situation where people want more clarity before conclusions are reached. That's a normal reaction when something this complex starts unfolding in such a public way. And this is exactly why the conversation hasn't slowed down.
Because we're asking you to leave because you've been terminated and we're not.
But there's no explanation or documentation for this. I've never had one bad review from Dylan. I've never had one issue with the company. I've never done anything unethical. And so I'm sitting here understanding why my entire livelihood is being completely tossed out. I mean, I sat
No,
in this chair.
you're gonna do great things.
No, and I
You're
plan
likely
to.
I don't think you're likely to being tossed out. I think you're very successful.
Well, my paycheck every other week is being tossed out, Frank, with absolutely no warning whatsoever.
I understand. At this time, it's time for you to go.
It's time for me to go. Why? Like this is the treatment that Turning Point is offering now.
It's time to go.
Frank, this is crazy.
No, I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think you do. This feels very heartless. This feels without emotion.
I do understand where you're coming from.
This feels completely without emotion.
Every new development adds another piece to the picture, and instead of simplifying things, it often raises even more questions. Because at the center of all of this is a process that's supposed to be thorough and balanced, yet it's unfolding in a way that feels compressed and highly visible at the same time. So now, attention isn't just on what's being said in court, it's on how the entire situation is being handled from start to finish. The structure, the timing, the access, the presentation, it's all under a microscope. And as this continues, people aren't just watching for outcomes anymore. They're watching how those outcomes are reached. And now it reaches a point where the pressure isn't just building, it's becoming impossible to ignore. Because when everything starts moving this fast, people don't just focus on the claims anymore, they start focusing on the gaps. And right now, those gaps are exactly what's keeping the conversation alive. One of the biggest issues people keep coming back to is consistency. When a story is pushed forward quickly, every detail has to line up perfectly, or questions start showing up almost instantly. And here, there are still pieces that haven't been fully explained. The defense is still asking for access, still trying to verify key elements, and yet the process is already moving ahead like everything is settled.
And you can see from behind me, this is a recreation of the tent where Charlie Kirk lost his life at Utah University in September, and people are taking selfies with it.
I can't. I cannot. I am not capable of whatever that. When I saw this, I realized I do not know enough words. I had to consult a thesaurus and I still could not land upon the correct adjective to describe how I felt when I saw that tent, people taking selfies under a recreation. I don't know if it's actually the tent. It looks like it's pretty old, or a tent that Charlie died under. That's what was happening at AmFest. Horrified. I was aghast. I don't think I ever described myself as aghast. I was aghast. It was ghastly to look at that and to realize that they made a conscious decision to allow that to happen. To what end?
That's what creates that uneasy feeling. Not because anyone has proven something one way or the other, but because the structure itself doesn't feel complete. And when a case reaches the public at this level of visibility, even small inconsistencies can grow into major talking points. Then there's the reaction behind the scenes. Reports of internal tension, sudden shifts, and quick decisions all add to that sense of urgency. It's not just about what's happening in court, it's about everything happening around it at the same time. When multiple things change at once, it naturally raises more attention, and people are watching closely now. Every move, every update, every new detail, it all gets analyzed almost instantly. Because once a situation enters this level of public focus, nothing stays quiet for long. At the center of it all is one simple question that hasn't gone away. Why push forward so quickly if there are still parts that haven't been fully opened up? That question keeps coming back. And until it's answered clearly, the pressure isn't going anywhere. And now, as everything continues to unfold, the focus isn't just on what happens next. It's on whether the process itself will finally slow down enough for everything to be properly seen, checked, and understood. Because in a situation this visible, clarity isn't just important, it's expected. Because if everything really is as clear as it's being presented, then there shouldn't be any hesitation when it comes to handing over the full files. Let the defense review everything, verify the claims, and slow the process down, just enough to make sure it actually holds up under real scrutiny. But that's not what people are seeing right now. Instead, there's a strong push to move forward, even with missing pieces. And that's the detail that shifts everything. Because once you notice that, the case stops feeling like it's only about whether Tyler Robinson is responsible. It starts raising questions about why the system around the case is moving this way, and why Erika Kirk appears so closely tied to that momentum. And Candace isn't stepping back at all. If anything, she's turning the intensity up even more. She keeps pointing out every inconsistency as it shows up, making sure people don't just overlook details that could matter. That's changed how people are watching this unfold. It's not just about the evidence anymore. It's about the behavior, the timing, what's being said, and what's still being kept out of view. The online reaction reflects that shift too. People are speaking up, analyzing every angle, and asking questions that keep coming back again and again. Some are pointing out loyalty and long-standing relationships, while others are directly questioning roles and influence in this situation. There's a growing sense that the process itself is just as important as the outcome. And right now, that process is under a serious spotlight. And the deeper this goes, the harder it becomes to ignore one key question. If everything is solid, why the urgency, and why not allow full transparency? That question hasn't gone away. It's only getting louder. And if this case is truly centered on Tyler Robinson, then why does it feel like something much bigger might be influencing how everything is playing out? Now it's your turn to speak on it. Drop your thoughts down in the comments and let everyone know where you stand. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to see it. Stay locked in, because there's always more coming, and you don't want to miss what's next.